I really love things, which is why I love this business and have always enjoyed collecting things. I've always been a consignment shopper or garage sale shopper. Estate sales are really great, but you can find incredible quality in a thrift store, consignment shop, church, charity store, garage sales. You know, you could buy anything you wanted for your home over time at a consignment store. Everybody has stuff that they've just kind of stuck somewhere because they're not using it. I like to say they're bucks in the basement, cash in the closet, and assets in the attic. And so you've got plenty of things you can sell to raise cash. In fact, I dare say you could fund your baby step one probably by just selling things out of your home. The couple that comes in selling some of their nicest things because they need the money is dear to my heart because I've been there. It's painful, but if it's necessary, it's necessary. And you can sort of look at it as money in the bank when you look around your living room and you see all these fabulous things you've collected. You can turn all of that into cash.
Please welcome nationally syndicated radio host and New York Times best-selling author, Dave Ramsey.
Wow, welcome to That's Not Good Enough. How to buy only big bargains. Open up your workbooks to that lesson because, of course, as we always do in Financial Peace University, you're going to fill in the blanks as we go along. This is a fun lesson. It's about how to buy stuff and not pay too much. It's about how to buy stuff and get the best possible bargain. And I got to tell you, I enjoy getting a deal. I go at it maybe a little differently than some people. I go at it a little differently than even my wife, but I enjoy getting a deal. And you know, it's interesting to me. When I first started teaching this stuff, I kind of grew up in a household where we called it horse trading. We never had any horses, but we called it horse trading. You know, getting a deal on something, going out and bargain shopping, trying to find somebody that needed to sell something. And when I first started teaching people how to negotiate and get bargains, I had people come up to me that were offended. They would say, well, now, goodness gracious, if someone were to give you a deal, then if you were to negotiate and get a deal from someone, then you must have taken advantage of them. You know, that is a strictly American concept for someone to even think that way. Every other culture you visit all around the world negotiates everything. Negotiation is a way of life. If you've ever gone across the border of the United States to the south, to the north, if you've gone overseas anywhere, if you've been in the Caribbean, I mean, there are actual cultures that are insulted if you do not engage them in a negotiation to do a purchase. But not us. No, we get in our fleeced car, running on credit card gas, driving on a bond-financed highway. We go to the mall and pay 120% of retail and think we got a deal because it said sale over it. And never once asked if there was a better price available. We just pay the piper. I mean, it is so ingrained in other cultures that, well, we had these friends that were missionaries, and I think they'd been on the mission field maybe a little too long. You ever run into those folk? They were out there a little too long. We should have reeled them back in a little sooner. I mean, she comes home, and she's here about 3 weeks. They've been out there years on the mission field. She's home about 3 weeks. We think this woman's going to get arrested. She's in the mall going, I want a better deal. And the woman's going, call security. I mean, because she was up in their face trying to get a bargain. That is the way most cultures around the world think, but not us. And so I want to tell you first that it is okay to get a deal. It's okay to get a deal, but I'll go ahead and give you some rules so that you understand when it's okay to get a deal. It's okay to get a deal if you didn't lie to get the deal. You in no way misrepresented the truth. You know, you didn't tell them that your child was ill and that, you know, all of this if your child wasn't ill. I mean, and you don't use some kind of whacked out con artist thing to try to get a bargain. That's not what we're trying to do here. Now, of course, you've not set out to harm the other party. The intent of you getting a deal was not just to be abusive somehow in the process. Your intent to get a deal was just simply to get a deal. And of course, you've approached this whole process of buying a deal from a win-win perspective. Now, I got to tell you, the stuff I'm going to teach you in this lesson, most of you have done it once or twice. Many of you have done it quite a bit. It would be the rare person in here who, as I teach this lesson, you go, wow, I've never heard that. That's not what you're going to say. You're going to go, well, I knew that. But what I want to emphasize at the beginning and at the end and in the middle of this lesson is that you make this a way of life, not just the occasional story that happened and you get to tell it. I want it to be your way of looking at things from this point forward. Make getting a bargain a way of life. The first key to opening the door to huge bargains is learning to negotiate everything. Just start with the idea that everything is negotiable. At some price, in some quantity, on some delivery date, everything is negotiable. Last year's model, last year's color, I don't know what it is, but at some point, just about anything you want to buy, you can buy at a deal. Just get in that mindset. I will not accept retail as a way of life anymore. I'm going to start with the basics and say I'm going to negotiate everything. And if you approach it with really understanding what a win-win deal looks like, you won't be afraid to ask for it. Win-win deals really do work, so don't be afraid to ask for the deal. One of the best books I've ever read on negotiating was by William Ury and Roger Fisher. It's called Getting to Yes. Getting to Yes. And if you don't know who William Ury and Roger Fisher are, they're the guys that are professional, world-renowned negotiators. They sit in things like with Jimmy Carter and the Camp David Accord. Major negotiations between countries and diplomats. They sit down, and the thing they talk about is that win-win really does work. And the way you can discover as you purchase something or as you engage in negotiation, how do you discover how to help the other party win? You have to gather information. He with the most information about the whole deal, including the other party involved, he with the most information has the best opportunity to design a win-win and will win the negotiation most of the time. So if you'll gather information, slow down a little bit, learn about who it is you're dealing with. What are their motivations? Why are they at the table? What's going on? Why is it they're selling that thing? It's kind of like, well, they tell the story in that book of the two old ladies with the orange. The two old ladies have an orange in the house, and if they did the normal negotiating thing, kind of the naive negotiating thing, they both wanted the orange. And they argue back and forth, back and forth, back and forth over the orange. And finally, they just give up and say, well, the typical thing, it's kind of it's a bad result for a negotiation because they didn't talk long enough and they simply cut the orange down the middle. But if they had discussed it a little bit, one lady wanted the orange to take the peel off of the orange and use it in cooking. How many of you ladies have ever used an orange peel in cooking? The other lady wanted the orange to take the peel off of it and to eat the fruit. If they had spent time understanding each other's needs, wants, and desires, gathering information, they both could have had 100% of the orange. Instead, they spent all their time arguing. That's not negotiating. And it doesn't give you a win-win solution. If you'll gather information from people that you're working with, you can have 100% of what you want. They can have 100% of what they want, and there's no harm, no foul. That is a win-win scenario. Let me give you another example of that. Okay, I'm holding in my hand just a pretty basic, standard orange. And I'm going to actually sell this orange right now to the person who can give me a $20 bill for it the fastest. Go. Quick, hold it up. The first I see a 20 in the air, I'm going to take you fast as you can get here. Go fast. Somebody's got 20 bucks. You got it right here. This guy jumped. Come on. Is that a 20?
It is.
Now, you bought an orange for 20 bucks.
Yes, I did.
Just being on the front row made you a little too enthusiastic?
Maybe.
It's a little scary. I don't know. Come up here for a minute. Join me up here. I would hate to take it. Just walk right over there on that side of the table. I'd hate to take advantage of you in front of all these people, but because I don't know if this is a win-win deal or not. Do you?
I don't.
Your wife's going, what's he done? What's your name?
John.
John. It's good to meet you, sir. Thank you, by the way. That was a great deal. But just for the fun of it, let's just see what happened with this orange and see what happens with Big John here, how he came out on this. Uh-oh, right there. What is that down in there? Go ahead and pull that out and unwind it.
$100 bill.
$100 bill. I think he came out. Congratulations. A rather sticky, icky $100 bill, but it's a good trade for a 20, wouldn't you agree? So all that proves is that you can get an audience to do anything. It doesn't have anything to do with negotiating. So when you're negotiating, there's at least 7 little things you can do. I call these the lucky 7 basic steps of negotiating. Number 1, when you're negotiating, always tell the truth. And not telling something that you know is also lying. The transmission really didn't slip when you just test drove this car I'm selling, but it has been slipping for the last 3 weeks. Whew. Wrong answer. You just got to look at them and go, look, this transmission's slipping a little bit. It's part of the deal. That's why I've got the car priced the way it is. You're probably going to have to do a little work on that. That's part of the process of always telling the truth. How many of you have ever heard the book by Tom Stanley, The Millionaire Next Door? Raise your hand. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, by the way, you ought to read it. It's the consummate study of millionaires. Tom Stanley was a marketing professor at Georgia State University, and he went all across America studying millionaires and the attributes of people that are millionaires. Now, I've established early and often in Financial Peace University that if you want to be rich people, you got to do rich people stuff. If you're broke and you want to be rich, do rich people stuff. If you're big and you want to be skinny, do skinny people stuff. Right? If your marriage isn't going good, find somebody who's been married 62 years, take them to coffee and learn about how to be married. You know, you find somebody that's winning at something and do what they're doing to be what they are. Does that make sense? Say yes. Yes. Okay, now what Tom Stanley did in his second book was called The Millionaire Mind. And in that book, what he did was he didn't study millionaires. He studied people that at least had $10 million. 10 millionaires, deca millionaires, and at least had a $750,000 a year personal income and had maintained that over an extended period of time. Now, these are people that make $750,000 a year and have at least $10 million and have done this for many years. And he wanted to sit down and study them. And he studied the attributes, the character qualities of these super winners. By the way, statistically, they are in the top 1/4 of 1% of Americans. A very rare animal indeed. And he studied how these rare animals work, how they think. And he came up with 38 character qualities or things that they had in their lives, and he ranked them according to most likely to be there every time. Number 1 was the thing that was there every time, all the way down to 38, which appeared the least number of times as he studied these people. I was real happy to see that, you didn't have to have a 4.0 GPA to be there. Wasn't even in the top 10. Thank goodness I got a chance. But the interesting thing to me was the number 1 characteristic of these very, very wealthy people, when he talked to their employees, when he talked to their vendors, when he talked to their family, their wife, their husband, their kids, when he talked to their in-laws, when he talked to their neighbors, when he talked to people who didn't even know them up close and personal, but knew them by reputation. In every single case, not one exception of the people he studied, every single one of them, so this attribute became number 1. These people had fanatical levels of integrity. Fanatical levels of integrity. Off the scale integrity. If you want to win in life, the truth is the best way. I know television doesn't tell us that, but it really, really is. So always tell the truth. Now, I, of course, going around the country, have taught, financial things for years. I'm on the radio in my city for over a couple of decades almost now. And one of the things I teach people, you probably know this if you've read anything I've written or anything else, is that I teach people don't buy extended warranties. Don't buy extended warranties. Extended warranties are a rip. So when you're going to buy a washer and dryer or a television or a stereo or whatever, and they want to put the warranty on there, that warranty is about 50 to 60% commission. Only 12% of it covers the actuarial statistical probability of the item breaking down. And so self-insure through that, put that money in your pocket and use your emergency fund, because believe me, almost all of that is profit and marketing. It's a way for the salesman on the floor to make a little kick. And that's what it amounts to. So I've told people for years, don't buy extended warranties, don't buy extended warranties. I've not bought extended warranty in 20-something years. So my wife and I are shopping just the other day for a major appliance, right in our own neighborhood. And we go down to this electronics store, this appliance store that we like, that we do business with, and I bought stuff there many times. And I walk in the door, and we're looking at the item, and we're talking about it, and finally we say, I want the open box special, you know how you go through this whole thing. You got one with a little scratch on the side. And he comes back and he said, well, I got one that's a last year's model. What's the difference? Almost nothing, and we want the last year's model. Well, it's not the color she wants. I don't care what the color is. It's not, it's an appliance. We're not going to see it. And so we are going through this thing. We're getting ready to make a deal. And I said, look, here's the deal. I pay cash for things, and I want a bargain. And he says, well, I'll be back in just a minute. And he comes back in a few minutes. He says, well, I've got these coupons here, and they don't apply to this purchase, but if you're going to pay cash and you want a deal, we're getting this last year's model open box thing, but we'll even let the coupons apply. And this was a several $1,000 purchase, and it was a $250 coupon. And I'm going, oh, you're generous. Keep it coming. And he says, well, I got to talk to you about something else. He says, you need the extended warranty. And I said, well, I don't buy extended warranties, and I don't believe in them. I don't think they're a good buy, and we don't do that. And my wife says, well, honey, it might break down. And I said, where have you been? When I've taught about 3 or 4 other million other people not to buy them, where were you? We don't buy extended warranties. She's just trying to be nice. She doesn't want to do conflict. The little guy's obviously hurt that we wouldn't buy his extended warranty. And he goes on, well, you need to cover. I said, well, is the thing going to break down? Is it a piece of trash? And he said, well, no, it's one of the best items made, Consumer Reports, so and so. And I said, well, what do I need the extended warranty for? And he's like, well, he said, I tell you what, Dave Ramsey buys extended warranties. I thought he knew who I was, and I thought he was kidding around. And I started grinning. I said, no, Dave Ramsey doesn't buy extended warranties. Dave Ramsey, I can promise you, Dave Ramsey doesn't buy extended warranties. Well, now he gets all puffed up, and he takes I start to realize this guy doesn't know who he's talking to. And he's like, yes, he does. He was in here the other day. He bought a television in this very store, and he put an extended warranty on it. My ears are now red. My head is starting to change colors all the way back. And my wife said, honey, you're red. And I said, well, let me just try to explain this to you. I can promise you, I know Dave Ramsey personally. He does not buy extended warranties. Oh, I could show you the paperwork. And so I just pulled my license out of my pocket and held it up in front of his face, and I said, he doesn't either. And he looked at it and he went, oh no. I'm so sorry. And I said, well, yeah, you are. And Sharon, he's like, well, we can get you a deal, Dave, I promise you. And I'm like, look, man, I'm sorry, I can't breathe right now. When people lie about me, it just messes with me. I can't even breathe. And Sharon's like, well, we'll work this out. I said, we're not working nothing out, honey. I said, I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. And so what I have to do is right now is I have to quickly leave this store. And I held my breath and and I didn't kill anybody, and I didn't transfer it and yell at my wife. I was really proud of myself, and I just left the store, and we went to another place and actually paid more because there was no way those people were getting my money. No way. I waited overnight. I called the next morning. I was calm and collected, and I was very gentle and nice, and the manager's like, oh, yeah, we heard what happened. Please don't talk about it on the radio. It's like, I said, dude, this is the best story in the universe. It will be talked about. And I said, but he said, well, listen, we've sent out a memo to everybody in the entire chain. It will never be said again, I promise you. We looked up the file. He was wrong. We told him wrong, and it won't be ever done again. We promise, we promise, we promise, we promise, we promise. And I wasn't mean to him at all. I'm not a bully. And I just said, well, that's cool. Thank you very much. And I appreciate you. We will do business with you again since you've corrected this error, and we like you guys. And he said, well, if you come back down here, I can get you a deal on that. And I said, no, we bought it somewhere else because I just couldn't stay there. I couldn't breathe at that moment. But integrity matters, doesn't it? When you lie, it costs you. That's real. There is no shortcut. That's the deal. The second thing is, if you want to do the lucky 7 steps to negotiating, is you have to use the power of cash. Cash is powerful. Now, we talked about this in the debt lesson. We said in the debt lesson that if you spend cash, it hurts. It registers pain with you. And it causes you to not want to spend it. You carry Uncle Ben around a little while, it's like, Uncle Ben, he's part of the family, right? I don't want to lose you, stay with me. You know, and it hurts, so it makes you stop and think, doesn't it? And that's one of the ways it saves you money, but it is a good negotiating tool because when you hold up cash, cash is emotional, isn't it? You just kind of walk around the store. You know, they'll line up behind you, won't they? Hey, you know. Going, I'm thinking I want a deal. And the other thing when you're using cash is it's very visual. Now, my wife Sharon, she doesn't like all this stuff. It's too confrontational to her. She's like, you embarrass me. That's just one of the side benefits of doing all this stuff. Cash has immediacy. If I walk up to you and I'm getting ready to buy something and I put down 10 $100 bills and I say, I'm going to make you a $1,000 offer, you're not going to worry about whether my credit card's going to clear. You know I don't have to talk to my bank or pull my credit bureau report. It's a deal. It's immediate. It's a lock. It's visual, it's emotional, and it is a happening thing. If I lay it down there, I'm going to get a deal, period, that way. Well, I'm talking to the manager now, at the appliance store. Same thing, I'm trying to buy a television. I'm going into one of these electronic stores, and we all know what they are, and I'm standing there going, I want a deal. Look into my eyes. And he's going, well, Mr. Ramsey, we are a retail establishment. We don't really negotiate here. I said, yeah, well, under what circumstances are there bargains? Well, sometimes, we have an item that's a display item, and we have an open box special, so open a box. Right? Well, I just don't know. I don't know. Are you sure? Because if we don't do a deal here, then I'm going to have to go see if those other people really have the Best Buy. You got to have some fun with this, people. You got to have some fun with it. I remember one time, several years ago, our kids were small, and we were busy running around, and I did the unpardonable sin. I forgot Mother's Day. Yeah, you know how bad this is. We go to church and they're handing out roses to all the women. I'm going, what are the roses for? Oh, no. Oh, no. So we're walking up through the parking lot after church with the kids in tow, and I'm going, honey, the kids and I have been talking about your Mother's Day gift, and we've just decided whatever you want, we're just going to go get it right now. And she's like, you forgot, didn't you? Uh-huh. So whatever you want, we're going to go get it right now, right? And so she said, I know what I want. She said, we've got that old beat-up washer and dryer that we've had ever since we got married, and it was used when we got it, and we have to kick it to make it run. And she said, I'm sick and tired of that. I want a brand new top-line washer and dryer. And I said, okay, I'm doing it in my mind. I'm going, how bad did that be? That's like $500, $600, $700. It can't be this bad, right? And so we go, and I said, okay, we're going to go down, look at the scratch and dent store. She said, you didn't hear me. I said, brand new. You're going to pay, Bubba. So we go into the store, honestly, truth story, went into the appliance store, and she walks in, and she walks down the aisle past all of the others and walks down to the end and says, I want that one. She had been there before. She had been planning this. I go down there and I look at it. This thing, it makes sandwiches at halftime. Who knew a washer and dryer could be this expensive? I'm looking at it, and I put them all together. We sit down with the little guy at the little round table, and he's seeing the kids. It's Mother's Day. He knows he's got him one, right? This is going to be a hard negotiation. This is going to be tough. And he says, yeah, he says he adds it all up, taxes, title, delivery, everything is like $1,298 actual dollars. For a washer and dryer. You're kidding me. And he went, no, sir, that's how much it is. And I said, well, actually, I don't have $1,298. But what I do is I have 9 of these. 1, 2, and she kicked me under the table. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I laid 9 of them on the table. I said, 9, that's all I can do. And he said, well, I can't do that. And I said, well, who can? He said, well, that would be the manager. I said, talk to the manager. She kicked me again. He walked off. She said, you don't need another seminar story. Buy it. True story. The guy walks back over. He's got his head on down because I was kind of in pain, so I was kind of snarling. And I think he thought I was snarling at him. And he came back over and he had his head down. He says, I can't do 900. He said, the lowest the manager will let me go is 935. Well, now I'm having fun. I'm going, you're going to let me, with all the advertising dollars you put out to get people in here on Mother's Day, you're going to let me walk out the door for $35. She kicked me again. I said, we'll take it. $12.98 for 935 is not bad, though. Why? Just because we tried. The next of the lucky 7 is understand and use walk-away power. You have to emotionally be able to walk away and not purchase the item. If you are emotionally married to the item, your body language changes, the tilt of your head changes, your vocal cords constrict, the use of words changes, the sentence structure changes, and people can tell you have bought. Even those of you that are not trained sophisticatedly in body language can just watch and go, that one bought. You know what I'm talking about? You can feel it, can't you? And people can feel it. And so when you lose your walkaway power, you lose the ability to negotiate. This is a big deal. You have to keep your emotional distance from the item in order to be able to let them know. They have to be able to feel that they're losing you and they want to reel you back in as you go through this negotiating process. That is a big, big, big deal. I had a guy call me one time with one of these .com companies that we had been working with, and the .com company went broke. Now there's a shock. And before it went broke, they had just furnished this fabulous office with literally hundreds of these, well, probably a little less than 100 of these Steelcase brand, which is a top brand of office furniture, cubicles. And all these beautiful chairs and all the accessories all through this place, and a fabulous conference room, all done up. I mean, some serious wood stuff. I mean, gorgeous stuff, right? And he says, Dave, I just wrote a check for this. Nobody's even sat in these seats. And now we're turning around and we didn't get our funding from our venture capitalist and we're going to have to turn the key on it. I got to sell it. I said, man, I don't need all this stuff. I don't even have that many people working here. It won't even all fit in our office. He said, but you don't understand. I'm going to make somebody a deal. And I'm like, really? I don't need all this stuff. And he said, listen, don't make me an offer because you're going to own it. And I went, okay, I'm starting to need this stuff. So I sat down with our executive VPs, and there were only about 40 of us at that time working on our team. Now there's several hundred of us, right? But at that time, I said, well, okay, guys, this guy says he gave me the tickets on it. It's $275,000 worth of furniture. That's a lot. And I said, at what price, guys, would we buy this that if we didn't buy it at that price, we would feel stupid? Because we really don't need it. We're going to have to put it in storage until we grow enough to use it. Or we're going to have to try to sell it and make money on it. We're not in the furniture business, so we're not doing that. So what are we going to do here? And so we fooled around. We all talked it out. And finally I said, look, and one of the guys said, okay, we settled on a price, $23,500. And I said, he'll never take it, but at least if it's more than that, we don't want to pay for something we don't really need today much more than that, but it's a great buy. And so I called him up, and I really did have walkaway power because I really didn't care if he sold it to me or not because I didn't really need it. You see what I'm saying? At that time. If you visit our offices today, it's in there because he took $23,500. That's a deal. But I think a lot of that had to do with I didn't care. And it was all in my spirit. You know what I'm saying? He could feel that I didn't care. And I wasn't trying to beat the guy up. He's the one that said, make me an offer. I wasn't shopping for this, but he drew me in with price. And a lot of that was walkaway power. I've taught my wife, I've taught my kids this stuff, and we live this way as a family. And because my wife is a typical Southern belle, non-confrontational, will cut your throat. You know what I'm saying, and say, bless your heart about the, you know what I'm saying, bless your heart means a lot of things you don't want to know. I mean, and so, but all this stuff to her feels like confrontation, all this negotiating stuff. And so we were kind of playing with it. I said, here's what you do, try this. And we were at the flea market, and she was looking for this iron bed that she was going to paint up, an antique bed thing, and put it in one of the kids' rooms. She had this plan, and we go down, and she's like, over there's the bed. Now, what do I do? That's the one I want. And I said, okay, here's what you do. Number one, don't get married to it. Maintain your walkaway power. And do these things. And just play with it. Just have fun with it. Here's some cash. Go over there and try to do it. I mean, the guy was asking like $20 for the bed or something. I don't know what it wasn't much. I mean, I thought by the time she finished with the guy, he was going to pay her. I mean, she wore him out over that bed. And so she's all feeling like, hey, I got this stuff down. And we're walking down through there. And way down the aisle down there is the wicker patio furniture that we had been needing. She forgot everything she had just learned. And for 45 feet towards this wicker furniture, it looks like a woman running through a wheat field. Her body language, you know what I'm saying? The way she walked up to it said, you got me. And then she caught herself and stopped and said, oh no, I need a deal. And by now the guy's just grinning going, there's no deal happening here. We had to completely walk away from the furniture because there was no negotiation based on the way she walked up to it. You know what I'm talking about? This stuff, you have to maintain your emotional distance, your walkaway power in order to get a deal. The fourth one is shut up. You talk too much. You want to start negotiating over the orange. Shut up. Ask a question. Gather information. Shut up. Don't enter the fray too quickly. Somebody says, I'm offering $5,000 for this, just nod and smile. It's powerful, isn't it? Silence is something there's not much of in this culture. I mean, you don't have to be unpleasant, just look at them, and they'll start looking around. They'll go, okay, I'll take $4,500. They'll start coming down on their price, and you hadn't done anything but grin. The worst thing was I went on this used car lot one time. I was just out kicking around. I was having fun. Saturday morning, I'm out cruising around. I saw this little Jeep, and I thought, that little Jeep looks kind of cool. I pull up, and I get out of my car, and I'm looking at the Jeep, and I thought, I'm going to try this just to see how far you can take it. And it was really uncomfortable for me because I took it a little too far. I mean, because the guy's coming around, he comes out, bounding out of there, he's talking. He's been in the coffee, he can't shut up. And I'm just standing there looking. And he says, how you doing? And I said, never said a word. Just I acknowledged him, but I thought, I'm going to see what happens if I just say nothing. And I'm walking around it, and he says, yeah, we're asking $5,500, but the manager said for us to get some stuff sold. I bet you I can get you a deal on this. I'll bet you I can get, I think I can probably, right now, I could go to $4,500. And I'm just standing there. And I'm walking around it, and he goes, maybe, he said, if you want to put it on payments, he said, we can work that out. He said, I can do anything. He said, probably get you some different wheels. And I got a friend down at the tire store, and if you did a deal this morning, I bet you I could get you some big tires on it if you want to do a mudding thing on this Jeep. He said, I bet you I can. And he's just giving me stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just kind of grinning, going. Finally, he says, I can tell a man like you knows what he's looking at with a car, and you can tell this car's been hit. If you'll just be quiet. It was an uncomfortably long silence. I was almost rude to the guy. But it was amazing. He just kept, and price enters into that discussion too. And other things will enter into that discussion that you could negotiate for that would make the deal sweet to you. Price isn't the only thing that makes a deal sweet, is it? Sometimes color, quantity, sometimes delivery. Other things make a deal sweet. So just learn to, it's okay. There's a dramatic pause when you shut up. Especially if you just ask a question like, is that price firm? And then don't say another word till they just keep, and if they ask a question, just kind of smile, nod, and don't answer it, and they'll just blah, blah, blah. Because people don't do conflict, and a lot of people view this process as a process of conflict, and they'll come down. Use the phrase, that's not good enough. That is a powerful phrase. If they say $5,000 for this car, you say, that's not good enough. They say $50,000 for that car, you say, that's not good enough. They say, we can do delivery by Friday. You say, that's not good enough. That phrase comes from an excellent negotiator, by the way, named Henry Kissinger. It's a phrase he has used a lot, according to his book, and a lot of multinational, international negotiating with diplomats. World-class negotiator. And when pages and when interns and when staff would bring a report in and put it on his desk, he'd say, that's not good enough. And they'd go back and work on it some more, and they'd bring it in again. He'd say, that's not good enough. And they'd come in all frustrated and say, that is all there is to know on this subject. He said, good, now that I have your best work, I'll read it. He sent them back out the door several times. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. Very, very powerful phrase, especially if you say that and then you put it back with that last one, shut up. That's not good enough. Smile and be quiet. You're going to see some powerful, fun things happen. Now, this also can be used on you, so you need to be aware. That is a phrase you'll hear collectors use. If you're behind on your bills and you have a collector calling you and no matter what you offer them, if you want to pay the full balance off on the spot, they'll come up with something and say, that's not good enough, we got to add fees. They will come up with something. I had one time, I had a car and a boat on one note with a certain bank when I was going broke. And a lady called me on a Thursday evening. I had a real estate closing scheduled a week later on the following Wednesday. I was going to make enough on that deal to bring it current. It was 2 months behind. And I said, just that. I have a real estate closing next Wednesday. From the proceeds of that, I will be able to bring it current. Until then, I can't do anything. And she said, that's not good enough. Well, I had been studying these collectors and collections techniques, and so I just, I knew that was in her script, and so I thought, well, let's try a little of this back. And I said, so? Well, that wasn't in her training. And so she just bounced off the walls, went crazy. We're going to come pick up the car. I said, you're going to pick up the car over 4 days discussion. We're talking about 3 business days here. If you want to pick up the car, I'll have the keys ready. What day would you like to get it? Would Friday be better for you or Monday? What? You're just going to? I said, lady, I can't manufacture money because you've learned a technique in your school that says that's not good enough. The money will be here Wednesday. If you want the car before then, you can come get it. I'll hook the boat up for you. Because, I owe you guys about like $9,000 more on the pair than they're worth. Come get the stupid thing. I'm tired of you. Well, Wednesday, I guess I said, well, maybe that's not good enough. So beware, because some of these techniques are being used on you. You got to watch for it. Here's one that's used on you all the time, the good guy, bad guy technique, isn't it? You see it on television, good cop, bad cop, right? And that's kind of one that's known, but if it's done very professionally, you have to be very careful. I've got to check with my manager. For years in the car business, they used a process called position selling that was taught. And position selling was the person out there selling can't do any of the negotiating. They have to go back and talk to the manager who's back there in the booth. They keep him chained there. He has one eye in the center of his head, 2 fangs coming out and foam everywhere. And he's please don't send me back to the manager again. He's going to kill me. They come up with all this drama process, and there's this mythical or real person back behind the curtain, and we have to go back and check with the other curtain. The bad guy is just out of reach, and I'm the good guy. I'm on your team. I'm over here with you. It's us against them. No, it's not. And the way you neutralize that, and by the way, I don't recommend using that as a negotiating technique. Unless it's very true, unless you really do have to check with someone. But I wouldn't set it up as a technique. But if it's being used on you, the way to neutralize it is just go, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I've made a mistake. I came in here to negotiate. I was ready to buy something. I made the mistake. I thought you were qualified to do the deal. Apparently you're not. I'm sorry for that. I'll be happy to make sure you get your commission. But what I need to do is we need to set a time when I can talk with your manager so that I'm able to do a deal because I don't have a qualified appointment here. And go around them and pull the guy out of the back. And even if you're dealing with a collector, my supervisor won't accept that. You know who their supervisor is? It's the idiot in the cubicle next to him. And they swap off being each other's supervisor every other call. It's really what they do. Okay? It's a technique. My supervisor won't approve it. You don't have a supervisor. If you did, you wouldn't be acting the way you're acting. Let's talk to the supervisor. Great, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you anymore because you don't have the ability to do this deal. And I'm walking away from this discussion. So the way you neutralize it is you circumvent them by going to the authority that's supposed to be the bad guy. The last one is the if I takeaway technique. If I were to give you $5,000 for this car, if I were to give you $168 million for this house, if I were to buy this shirt today, I need you, and you add something. You pull something else in. You take, if I close on the house by Friday, the only price I can give you is this. I'm ready to close, it's cash, and I can close the deal by Friday. We're ready because we're cash buyers. I can do it right now. I don't have to ask a mortgage company. All we got to do is run title, and we'll close that sucker Friday. You have a deal. But if I close it by Friday, this is the price. If I had a friend of mine used to buy investment property, and he used this all the time. He would walk through a home that the people were selling, and they appeared to be desperate to sell, and he would look for the item that was out of place. It was an item of pride that they obviously liked. I mean, they're living in a dump of a house, and they got a $40,000 bass boat out there, right? Or they're living in a little dump of a house, and they got an $800 refrigerator. You know what I'm saying? And it's something that's out of place. And he would say, well, you know, I see that you're asking, I don't know, make up a number, $100,000 for this house. And I can buy the house for $100,000, but if I do, you're going to have to throw in that bass boat. And people going, oh, no, I can't throw in the bass boat. That bass boat, you can't take my bass boat. That's my baby. You don't want my baby. I can't throw in the baby with my house. And so then the way he turned it is they would say all of that, and he'd say, well, if I don't take the bass boat, then what else are you going to give me? We're going to have to come off on price. As if he ever had the bass boat. See how the deal works. So if I do this, if we move forward in this way, then we're going to add this to the deal. I'm going to get a little better deal. I'm going to get a little another nibble in there. The second key to opening the door to huge bargains is that you must have patience. I got to tell you, this is my hardest one. I do it as a matter of discipline, but it is not my nature to have patience. My wife can have patience. She can wait. That's one of her strengths in this. She'll wait them out. She'll just sit down and go, But I mean, she can wait 2 months, she can wait 2 years, and me, I want it right now, and I'm tired of fooling with you. Again, Roger Fisher's book, he says the people that win negotiations have the most information and the most patience. The most information, the most patience. International negotiations, the United States team comes in and they rent a suite of hotel rooms to begin the negotiations. Team comes in from the Far East to begin the negotiations, they buy a villa. We're going to be here a while. Different mentality. They're there to wait this thing out. We're going to play long term for keeps. Again, don't get married to the purchase because you lose your patience. You get this, I want it, I need it, you get the fever going. And that gets you into a big mess. Back when I was in the real estate business, I had a young lady working for me, and she and her husband were looking for their first home. And they didn't want just any home. They wanted a home with some acreage, and they wanted a certain design of a home. They had this idea of a certain place out in the country that they wanted. And I told her, I said, we're buying foreclosures all the time. If you'll wait, we can get you a deal. But you're going to have to wait. It's going to take time. And every so often, another month would go by and they'd be out looking at houses and they're looking at some retail deal and I'd have to talk them down. Don't wait. I talked them down for a year and a half. And I talked them down 20 times in a year and a half. Talked them out of buying. But I'll tell you what, then I stumbled upon one. A credit union had foreclosed on this place, and we bought it for them. The appraisal on the property, I wrote it down, was $134,500. We had the house appraised when we were buying it. We were able to purchase it for $54,000. Patience pays off. The third key to opening the door to huge bargains is you must know where to find the deals. You must know where to look for the deals. Now, I'm an old Tennessee boy. I grew up in Tennessee, and in Tennessee, when we would go camping back in the woods somewhere when I was a kid, many times there'd be a nice, beautiful mountain stream there. Gorgeous, kind of cold water. You guys know what I'm talking about, say yes. And we'd go out there and we'd have our shorts on or we'd roll up our pants and we'd wade out there about to our knees and we'd be looking. And we would be hunting for what we in Tennessee call crawdads. little freshwater shrimpy looking things for those of you that hadn't ever had the pleasure. And so we'd be looking for, and of course they hide under rocks, don't they? And so you'd turn over the rock and the current of the stream coming by would move the silt away that was stirred up when you turned over the rock, and there sat the little guy. Now, when you first start doing it, you grab him behind the pinchers, but if you're really cool later, you're a real man, you just grab him and let him pinch you, you know? But after doing that for a little while, even as a little kid, 8 or 10 years old or 6 years old out there, you'll begin to say, hey, that rock has something under it. That one won't. And you can kind of identify by the way they're sitting there on the other rocks whether or not there's probably a crawdaddy under there that we're going to be able to get or not. Bargains are the same way. They lay in certain places. The rocks look a certain way. And as you begin to get a nose for hunting bargains and you live your life looking for bargains, you'll start to go, oh, there's one over there. I've got a friend of mine that's a professional real estate investor that has bought and sold houses since I was a kid. I've known him for several decades, and he's very, very good. And he has a thing. He goes out on Saturday mornings with a cup of coffee. He calls it driving for dogs. He's not looking for puppies. He's looking for a dog of a house where the grass has grown up, the shutter is askew, the gutter is hanging off, the front door needs painting, there's some sign of problems. The house is a dog. Bargain, 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 bargain. And he writes down the addresses and goes and looks up the owners and contacts them and buys houses that way, and has for decades, looking for that right rock, that right place to turn something over and find a deal. Of course, the other thing you can do is you can trade something of value, your goods or just your services. How many of you have ever bartered for something? I've done a lot of bartering in my life, and it's very valuable. Back when we first got in the radio business, we would take some of the radio ads and trade them for something, and that was a fun thing to do. We're way past that and aren't able to do that these days, but I kind of miss it. It was kind of, because my wife used to call it free stuff, and I'm like, hey, I'm working here. It's not free. You know, but you can trade your services. I don't know what you do for a living, but a lot of times you can trade that for something else. Some of you that have kids could just trade babysitting with each other and not have to pay a babysitter. I know everyone else's kids are meaner than yours. I know how that deal works, but still you can do some of that and save on the cash while you're working your debt snowball, while you're gazelle intense and you're trying to keep your costs down. So you can trade goods or services. You can do things like just get you a little gift certificate like this. Sometimes when you're giving gifts, everyone thinks they have to give money. Why don't you give of yourself a little bit? Maybe you have a service and you want to give of that service. My daughters have given babysitting to their youth pastor. What a wonderful gift at Christmas. They would rather have that than some little trinket. Okay, I'm going to give him two of these and redeem it. You know, as long as we can work it in our schedule, we'll be there and redeem this. And they get to go do babysitting for the youth pastor. What a great idea. Some of you dads, here's an awesome idea. You got teenage daughters? Give them one of these and put date night on there. They would love to have their dad take them out on a date. Very, very valuable. Much more valuable than money or than stuff from the mall. And so you can trade in a lot of different ways and create really cool ideas. But we got to look at the places to find great deals. Now, one of the great places, always look to try to buy from individuals. The reason you want to buy from individuals is simply this. Individuals have an item that is not there for profit. It is in the way. You know what I mean? If a bicycle store has a bicycle for sale, they paid a certain amount of dollars for that bicycle. And from an accounting standpoint, that's called their cost of goods sold. Have you ever heard that? Say yes. Okay. So they paid, I don't know, $100 for the bicycle. And if you come in and you use all the techniques in the world, you use cash and you do all these other things, you threaten them with their competitor, they're not going to sell the bicycle for less than they paid for it. They'd be losing money. How dumb would that be? They will just sit there. And so you can offer them $98 and do a little dance or whatever, and they're not going to take $98 because they paid $100. Now, you can get down close and let them make a small amount of profit, but they're not going to dip into loss land if they're smart. Businesses don't do that. An individual, however, what they paid for it doesn't enter into it. It's in the way. I had some bicycles one time, and I don't know if this ever happens to you, but we parked them in the garage between the boat and the car. And the stupid things kept falling over, and they were either scratching my boat or scratching my car. It really didn't matter at this point what we paid for them. We had a garage sale. I put them out back, and I put 2 for $10. I want them out of my garage. And you know, get rid of, I mean, this lady walked up and said, well, you take 5. Yeah, just drive them off. Just get them, you know, they're in the way. When you buy from an individual, what they paid for the car 4 years ago doesn't enter into it. When you buy from a car lot, what they paid for it 2 weeks ago at the car auction does enter into it because they're in the business to make a profit. And so individuals are one thing you always want to try to look to when you're buying things. Always look at estate sales. Estate sales are fun. Good idea. Public auctions. Now be careful with public auctions because they get you excited and you'll pay too much. And you got to know what stuff's worth. When we first started our business years ago, I was looking for a copier to get our business started with, a little cheap copier of some kind. So I went down to the office supply store and I went to the copier company and I looked at all the different copiers and I knew what copiers were costing. Different brands, I had it down because I had been shopping, you know what I'm saying? Then I went to a big auction, big office supply place went broke, bankruptcy auction, and they were auctioning them off. And there's a whole line of copiers down through there. And the auctioneer's going down through there and he's got a power cord and he's plugging them in. They'd come to life and people would bid. And they were bidding. Some of them were going higher than you could buy them retail for. People were just excited. And they're going down through there and they're going down through there and they're going down through there. And he comes to the one I really kind of wanted because it had the feeder thing on top. It would, expand, contract, bigger, shrink, and do all this stuff and all the little bells and whistles, And I guess the plug didn't go in good because it didn't come on. And auctioneers sometimes, they're all in the excitement too. And before he realized it, he said something stupid. He goes, oh, well, here's one. This will make a good boat anchor. And these copiers have been going for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 down through here. This is a copier that I had looked at. It was $4,100 if I bought it used and reconditioned from the local copier place. $4,100. So I said, $50 for the boat anchor. And you're kind of standing around like this is a copier. There's a group of people standing around right here like this. And this guy across from me starts bidding and we're bidding back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, he bids $200. And I don't know what got into me. I just had one of those moments. I said, have you got a boat? Fool, quit bidding. I bid $225 and bought it, and I plugged it in and it worked perfect for a $4,000 copier. But you got to know what you're bidding on. And for $225, I took a risk, didn't I? I could have thrown $225 away. By the way, I was telling a gang just a little while ago, we were talking about car stories. I bought a car at an auction one time for $100, and it cost me $75 to have it hauled off. So this doesn't always work out, does it? But that kind of was offset by the copier deal, so I'm still ahead. So have some fun with this process. Get on the mailing list of some of the auctions. Visit their website, some of the auction houses, and watch what they're doing. Now, don't buy a bunch of junk you don't need. That's not the point. But if you're in the market for a leather couch, become an expert on leather couches and then go bid on one and get you a deal. Couponing. The last year we tracked it, and we track it pretty regularly around our house because it's kind of a game. Sharon is the coupon queen. The last year we tracked it was a couple of years back, and she saved with coupons on things we were going to buy anyway. Hear that part? Things we were going to buy anyway, $700 in a year. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad at all. Garage sales. We all know about that one. You can get stuff at garage sales. You can get deals at garage sales. You can buy a car on a repo lot, can't you? I bought a car one time. $17,000 was the private sale appraisal on the car, meaning if you went online and looked it up, it'd be a $17,000 car, retail probably a little more than that, but that's really about what the car was worth. And it wouldn't start. Again, same kind of a thing like the copier. So I took a chance. I bid up to $11,000 on that car. I bought it for $11,000, $6,000 under what the car was worth. The only thing wrong with it was that $6,000 battery was bad. Now, I wouldn't have picked a brown car. If you got a brown car, I'm not mad at you, but if I had gone and selected and ordered a car, I might not have ordered a brown car. But for $6,000, I drove that thing a long time. It was a nice car. A $17,000 car for $11,000. You can drive that for a couple of years before it depreciates down to what you paid for it even. That's a good idea. Flea markets. Can you get a good deal at a flea market? Absolutely. You know that, don't you? Refunding. My wife also does that. That kind of goes with the couponing thing. Don't forget to keep those receipts and do the refunding. A lot of those little nickels add up to be dollars if you watch what you're doing. Foreclosures. Be careful with foreclosures. There's all these characters out there selling how to get rich in foreclosure real estate. It's a good way to go broke is what it is. Be very, very careful. And I strongly recommend that you do not buy a foreclosure at the foreclosure sale until you really have been doing many, many deals and know what you're doing. But can you buy a home from a seller who's motivated because they're about to lose it? You bet you can. You can get great deals that way. And it's a way to look. Now, you may not be exactly the house you were thinking about, but if it's $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 difference, then we can probably work through this. Pawn shops. Everything in a pawn shop is stolen. Oh, you watch too much TV. In the real world, they check every item with the police department. Pawn shops are highly regulated, but it's a great place to buy things. I buy a lot of stuff at pawn shops. You people that are gamers and want to do your electronic games and all this kind of stuff, great deals on used games there. No question about that. Online auctions, stuff like eBay. And can you get burned there? Say yes. Yes. So you have to be careful. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to be thoughtful. But can you occasionally slip upon and get a great deal? I have. I've bought stuff on eBay at a great deal, and you can do that. I've also bought stuff on eBay and I wished I hadn't. And if you've been on eBay much, you've had that happen to you too, okay? So just be careful, study, think about it, learn a little bit about the process. It's not that bad. Classified ads, that's going to hook you up with the individuals doing things. How about consignment sales? Like, yes, experienced clothing won't kill you. Now, we don't buy consignment sale clothing anymore because we lived like no one else for a while. Now we live like no one else. But I'll tell you what, just the other day, my wife made $378 taking our old clothing down and selling it at the consignment sale. And so, you know, this is real stuff. Conventions, this is one of my favorite that people don't do often enough. If there's a cookware convention in town, a lot of times the guy working at the gal working at the sales thing, they've got all their stuff setting out and they're not going to pack it up and ship it back across the nation somewhere. The shipping costs more than their cost of goods sold in that item. So as the convention closes down after being there for 3 or 4 days, they will virtually give you their sample stuff that's laying there to get rid of it so they don't have to ship it home. So be hanging around about the last day and go, what you going to do with that? And you'll be amazed what someone will give you or sell to you very, very inexpensively. Now, how many of you have bought something like I'm talking about? You've negotiated for it, or you know where to look for deals, or you've had patience and gotten a good deal at one time or another in your life? Please, everybody raise your hand, because I know surely you have not paid retail for everything your whole life, right? So the point is not that we have never done this. The point is, I want you to do this all the time. People who are wealthy, this is a way of life for them. They live like this all the time. They think about this all the time. Look for the win-win. Negotiate everything. Have patience. Think about where to find the deals. And you'll have more financial peace.
I shopped consignment clothes when my children were younger. They dressed beautifully. And to me, number one, I was on a budget, and yes, I was trying to save money. So going to a consignment sale and just paying for half price for the clothes that they were wearing, to me, that only made common sense.
We had wanted to buy a hutch for the dining room, but really didn't want to make a big investment. And I had one in mind, so when we went to the store, we applied Dave's principles, and we took the cash, and we knew beforehand exactly how much we wanted to spend. We knew how to bargain. We used the power of the bargaining, and wow, did we make a deal. we got a hutch that was $899. We walked out of there, had it delivered for $530 cash. That's a deal. Thanks, Dave.
We were remodeling the kitchen, and we'd gone to Lowe's. I think I was buying a kitchen faucet and sink. And they always advertise that, you know, if you get a Lowe's credit card, we'll give you 10% off. And I thought, well, I asked them, I said, well, I don't want a credit card. We believe we should pay with everything in cash. Can I still get the 10% off? And the salesperson I spoke to said, well, we have to ask the manager. So we went to the front and asked the manager. I go, I don't want to get a credit card. We believe in paying in cash. Can I get 10% off? And he gave me 10% off.
We went to the car dealership, we looked around all day, and we finally got to the dealership where somebody had just traded in exactly the van that we wanted. So I sent my wife in to negotiate, because she's the negotiator. So we were able to talk back and forth, and we were able to get them down by $2,500. The funniest part is that we told them we were paying cash, so they should accept that. And they said, well, we don't make any money off when you pay cash. I said, well, give it to us anyway. So they did.